quiet evening at home. While the town sleeps. The evening had settled quietly, without announcement. Outside, the town was already slowing down, the usual sounds fading into a gentle background hum. Inside the room, the light from a single lamp cast a warm glow across the walls, softening every edge and shadow. He sat comfortably, not doing anything in particular. The chair supported him without effort, and he allowed his body to rest fully against it. There was no need to adjust his posture or shift his weight. Everything felt balanced, as though the room itself had been arranged to invite stillness. The air was calm, carrying a faint sense of warmth mixed with the cooler night beyond the window. He breathed slowly, not counting or controlling it, simply noticing the natural rhythm as it continued on its own. Each breath felt unhurried, complete. The window nearby reflected part of the room, blending the interior light with the darkness outside. Beyond the glass, distant streetlights glowed softly, their light diffused by the quiet air. There were no moving cars, no voices, nothing to interrupt the calm view. He let his gaze rest there for a moment, then allowed it to drift gently back into the room. The surfaces around him were familiar. Simple furniture, clean lines, nothing demanding attention. Familiarity brought comfort, and comfort allowed his thoughts to loosen their grip. The day felt far away now, as though it belonged to someone else. Any conversations, tasks, or concerns that had filled the earlier hours no longer carried weight. They had already passed, and there was nothing more to do with them tonight. He noticed how his shoulders felt lower, how the tension that usually gathered there had softened. His hands rested easily, fingers relaxed, no longer holding on to anything. Even his jaw felt looser, unclenched without conscious effort. The lamp beside him hummed quietly, almost imperceptibly. Its light did not flicker or change. It simply remained, steady and dependable. The steadiness felt reassuring, a small constant in an otherwise shifting world. Somewhere in the building, perhaps in a neighboring apartment or a distant house, a door closed softly. The sound was muted, respectful of the hour. It passed quickly, leaving the silence intact. He allowed his eyes to half close for a moment, then open again. There was no need to keep them fully open. The room did not require close inspection. Everything was already known, already safe. The clock on the wall moved forward silently, its hands advancing without sound. Time felt less important now, less structured. Minutes passed, but they did not demand recognition. He shifted slightly in his seat, adjusting just enough to become even more comfortable. The movement was slow, deliberate, and then finished. Once settled again, he remained still. The window reflected the lamp once more, a soft glow suspended in darkness. Beyond it, the town continued to rest. Streets lay empty, buildings quiet. The night held everything gently in place. He noticed a pleasant heaviness in his limbs, not fatigue, but relaxation. His arms felt supported by gravity, his legs content to remain where they were. There was no impulse to stand or move. The quiet evening seemed to expand, stretching gently around him. Without distraction, his awareness softened. Thoughts still appeared from time to time, but they drifted past without forming patterns. He remembered how the room had looked earlier in the day, filled with movement and purpose. Now it felt entirely different, transformed by the absence of activity. Objects that once served functions now simply existed. The table nearby held nothing important, only a few ordinary items placed without care. Their presence did not suggest unfinished work or responsibility. They were just there, waiting without expectation. The sound of the building settling, a faint creak or shift, passed through the silence. It felt natural, like a reminder that everything around him was also resting in its own way. He took another slow breath. The air felt smooth, easy. There was no tightness in his chest, no urgency behind the motion. Breathing required nothing from him. Outside, the glow of streetlights remained constant. The reflections on the window shifted subtly as his perspective changed, but nothing else moved. The town seemed to be holding its breath along with him. He allowed his attention to drift inward, noticing the calm spreading through his body. His heartbeat felt steady and unremarkable. There was comfort in its consistency. The evening continued without interruption. There were no notifications, no messages, no sounds pulling him away from the moment. The stillness felt complete. He leaned back slightly, letting the chair support him fully. His head rested comfortably, his neck relaxed. There was nothing to hold upright, nothing to brace against. The lamp's light softened the edges of the room, blending shadows into gentle gradients. The corners of the space felt less defined, less demanding. Everything seemed to merge into a single, quiet atmosphere. He closed his eyes briefly, then opened them again. Both felt equally comfortable. There was no need to choose between them. The town outside remained asleep. Somewhere far away, a distant sound might have occurred, but it never reached him. The space around him felt protected from intrusion. He remained still, breathing slowly, allowing the quiet evening to continue unfolding without his involvement. The moment did not ask for participation, only presence. Time passed gently, without markers. The sense of evening deepened, settling further into calm. His awareness grew softer, less focused, more diffuse. The room felt warmer now, or perhaps he had simply become more aware of its comfort. The boundary between himself and the space around him felt less distinct. He did not think about sleep directly. There was no intention behind his restfulness. It simply arrived naturally as part of the evening. The lamp continued to glow, the window continued to reflect, the town continued to sleep. Nothing changed, and nothing needed to. He remained there, breathing slowly, content to let the quiet evening hold him. A quiet evening at home while the town sleeps? The evening continued to settle, becoming quieter in ways that were almost impossible to notice unless he allowed himself to slow down completely. Inside the room, nothing had changed, yet everything felt softer, as though time itself had relaxed its grip. He remained seated, supported comfortably, his body no longer seeking adjustment. The chair felt familiar beneath him, and that familiarity removed the need for awareness. His weight rested evenly, and gravity did the rest. The lamp's light remained steady, casting a warm, gentle glow that did not demand attention. It illuminated the room without highlighting any single detail, allowing everything to blend into a calm, unified space. Outside the window, the town continued to sleep. The distant lights appeared slightly blurred now, softened by the quiet air and the stillness of the night. There was no movement to follow, nothing to anticipate. He noticed how his breathing had become slower, deeper, without intention. Each inhale filled his chest gently, and each exhale released more than just air. It felt as though the day itself was leaving him, breath by breath. The silence inside the room was not complete, but it was close. There were faint sounds, the subtle hum of electricity, the distant settling of the building, but none of them interrupted the calm. They blended into the background, becoming part of the stillness rather than distractions from it. His thoughts drifted lazily, unformed and unimportant. When a memory or idea appeared, it did not linger. It passed through like a quiet visitor, leaving no trace behind. The room felt warmer now, or perhaps his body had simply relaxed enough to notice the comfort. His hands rested loosely, fingers gently curved, no tension remaining in them. He allowed his gaze to soften again, eyes partially closed. The edges of his vision faded, and the room seemed to lose its sharpness. Shapes remained, but they no longer needed to be defined. Time moved forward quietly. There was no ticking, no signal to mark its passage. Minutes blended together, forming a continuous stretch of calm. He became aware of the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, slow and consistent. It required no attention, no regulation. It simply continued, dependable and reassuring. The chair beneath him felt even more supportive now, as though it had adjusted itself to his body. His back rested comfortably, his shoulders sinking downward. Outside, the streetlights continued to glow. Their light spilled onto empty streets, illuminating sidewalks that no one walked along at this hour. The town felt paused, held gently in place by the night. He did not feel the need to move, to check anything, or to respond to any thought. Everything that required action had already been done. The evening had claimed the rest. His breathing slowed further, deepening naturally. The space between breaths felt longer, more spacious. Each pause carried a sense of ease. The quiet of the room seemed to expand, reaching into every corner. Even the shadows felt calm, resting where they were without shifting. He noticed a faint reflection of himself in the window, barely visible. It did not feel like an image to examine, just another soft shape within the scene. The sensation of heaviness in his body increased slightly, not uncomfortable, but grounding. His legs felt relaxed, his arms content to remain still. The idea of movement felt distant, unnecessary. He allowed his thoughts to drift again, this time even more slowly. They appeared without structure, dissolving almost as soon as they formed. There was no storyline to follow, no narrative to complete. The room continued to hold its quiet balance. The lamp did not flicker. The window did not change. Everything remained steady. He leaned back just a little more, allowing the chair to take more of his weight. His neck relaxed, his head settling into a comfortable position. The night outside felt deeper now, as though it had reached a point of full stillness. Any remaining activity in the town had faded completely, leaving only the quiet framework of streets and buildings. He took another slow breath, noticing how effortless it felt. There was no need to guide it. His body knew exactly what to do. The air felt smooth and cool as it entered, warm as it left. The contrast was subtle, calming. His awareness grew softer still, spreading evenly through his body rather than focusing on any single sensation. He felt present without being alert, awake without being active. The room no longer felt separate from him. The boundaries between his body and the space around him blurred slightly, creating a sense of gentle unity. He allowed his eyes to close fully this time. The darkness behind his eyelids felt calm and familiar. There was no sudden change, only a continuation of the same quiet atmosphere. Sounds faded further into the background, becoming less distinct. The silence felt complete, but not empty. He remained still, breathing slowly, each breath flowing into the next without pause or effort. The evening continued, unbroken and peaceful. Nothing asked for his attention. Nothing needed to be remembered. His body felt heavier now, settled, fully supported. The sense of rest deepened naturally, without instruction. The lamp continued to glow beside him, even though his eyes were closed. The room remained exactly as it was, holding its quiet shape. The town outside slept on, unchanged. Streets, buildings, and lights all remained in place, steady and calm. He stayed there, allowing the quiet evening to carry him further into rest, his breathing slow, his thoughts faint and distant. Day, Video 2. Quiet evening at home while the town sleeps. The quiet of the evening felt complete now, as though it had reached its natural depth. Inside the room, nothing shifted, nothing changed. The stillness remained steady, holding everything gently in place. He stayed where he was, fully supported, his body resting without effort. There was no need to adjust or reposition. Every part of him felt settled, aligned with the calm around him. His breathing continued slowly, evenly. Each breath flowed in and out with ease, the pauses between them growing longer, more spacious. The rhythm felt soothing, predictable, safe. With his eyes closed, the room no longer needed to be seen. Its presence was felt rather than observed. The warmth of the air, the quiet hum of the space, the sense of enclosure all blended together. The lamp beside him continued to glow, though its light no longer mattered. Even without seeing it, he could sense its steady presence, unchanged and reliable. Outside, the town remained asleep. Streets lay empty, windows dark, lights glowing softly without purpose. Nothing moved, and nothing needed to. His thoughts had grown faint now, barely forming before dissolving again. There was no effort involved in letting them go. They simply faded, one by one, leaving more space behind. The sensation of heaviness in his body deepened slightly, settling comfortably. His arms felt relaxed, his legs still, his shoulders loose. Gravity held him gently, without pressure. He noticed the subtle rise and fall of his chest, the gentle expansion with each breath. The movement felt minimal, almost imperceptible, yet steady. Time passed quietly. It no longer felt measured in minutes or moments. It existed as a continuous stretch of calm, without division. The room felt darker now, or perhaps his awareness had simply softened further. The boundaries of the space seemed less defined, blending into a single, quiet presence. His heartbeat remained steady, slow, and unremarkable. It required no attention, no acknowledgement. It continued on its own, reliable and calm. The evening wrapped around him gently, offering rest without demand. There was nothing left to finish, nothing to remember, nothing to prepare for. His breathing slowed further, becoming deeper, fuller. Each exhale released more of the day, leaving behind only comfort. The silence felt complete, but not empty. It was full of calm, full of rest. Every sound that might have existed had faded into the background, no longer distinct. His body felt warm and heavy now, supported entirely by the chair beneath him. The idea of movement felt distant, unnecessary. Thoughts no longer formed clearly. Instead, there were only faint impressions, gentle and fleeting, passing without shape or meaning. The room continued to hold its quiet balance. Nothing shifted, nothing changed. Everything remained exactly as it was. He allowed himself to sink further into the stillness, trusting it completely. There was no need to remain alert, no need to stay aware. The town outside slept on, unchanged. The night stretched quietly over streets and rooftops, steady and calm. His breathing became slower still, each breath blending into the next. The pauses between breaths grew longer, more peaceful. The sense of rest deepened naturally, without instruction or effort. His body knew what to do. His mind followed. The room felt distant now, less defined. The awareness of space softened, fading gently into the background. There was nothing left to notice, nothing left to consider, nothing left to hold on to. The quiet evening had done its work. He remained still, breathing slowly, allowing rest to settle fully. And as the town continued to sleep, he drifted with it, carried gently by the calm, the silence, and the steady rhythm of the night.
Hate video, Captain Video 2.